world, I sit back like, why bother? But get a different view every time that I call dollar. It's like Numi got the Uzi, man, she always speaking facts. She be dropping bombs, make all of them double back. And then the crime raises. It's something that they never gonna get that. But it's cool, let's sit back and chit chat. Unveiled
Gotta be
mindset.
stoic, you can't be frail. If you stay on track, you can't derail. If you stick around long enough, you for surely be unveiled. What's poppin'? What's did it? Welcome everybody to the Unveiled Mindset podcast, hosted by me, Daughter Kande, my lovely wife Numso Kaba, and two wonderful guests here today. Suman Kaba, aka Kaba the Crackator, and we got Kabin, aka Bean, Mr. Kleptomanian, but he's changed man. He's a changed man, IT man. Yes, sir. Now let's get into it, and don't forget to subscribe. We're going to leave the link in the description. Unveil Mindset, Unveil_Mindset on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok, on YouTube, and everything. We're going to the top.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome.
What's up?
We're super excited for this episode. Before we get into it, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Unveiled Mindset is a platform in which we have enlightening and purpose-filled conversations that nurture growth and unveils the mind. So let's get into it. The topic for today is the first generation discussion. Okay. All of us are of Guinean backgrounds. Our parents are Guineans, and they may have lived in other countries and other places, but of origin they're from Guinea. And so in this particular episode, I want to talk about understanding kind of the mindset that the generation before us were in, the state of mind and the bravery in order for them to do and make the sacrifices that they needed to make for us to end up where we ended up at, right? For all of us to be here, and for all of this to be possible, and be here in this country. And so before we actually even get into that discussion, can you guys provide like a brief overview of who are the main individuals or main folks in your family, or it could even be outside of your family, right, that have impacted you and made it possible for you to be sitting here today?
Well, for me, it was my auntie. She had raised me here in the state. She gave me a place to stay. I had a roof over my head. She took care of me. She was like a second mom to me. And also my mom, obviously, she was the reason behind it. She's the main reason for, the position I'm in today. She's the, 100% reason behind it. So I would say my mom and my auntie.
Okay. What about you guys?
Man, I got a lot of people I would have to name, Definitely would have to give it to my parents first. Brothers played their part. Different teachers, mentors, coaches that helped me, they were all a huge part. But I was lucky to have a lot of people around, but I would give it to my parents first and my brothers. That was my direct support.
For me, I would say my sister. So when I came over here, I stayed with her, basically. So I grew up with her. She was like my second mom too, but mainly my parents too. So my dad and my mom.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's valid. And yeah, same here. I would say both my parents, or my one set of parents. But yeah, I think they've definitely sacrificed a ton for me to be able to be here today. So, and we're all very grateful and recognize that. And so leading into that, do you feel like the current generation, whether it's our generation or even like the next generation after us, right, growing up, do you feel like they often take a step back to analyze and reflect on what even made it possible for them to be here today? And do you feel like they do it justice, like the sacrifice that our parents or our aunts or our siblings had to do in order for us to be here? Do you feel like us as the youth of the diaspora do it justice to based on their efforts and their bravery?
So, okay, let me just clarify something. You're saying, you're saying the youth is not, are they not appreciative of all the sacrifice that our parents made to get us in this position?
Yep. So either appreciative, or do they take time to reflect back at what that had to be like in order to make those decisions possible, or in order to make it possible for us to be here? Number one, do they take time to think about it, right? To recognize. Number two, Are they appreciative of it? And number 3, are they grinding either the same or twice as hard to do it justice, basically?
I think it comes down to a few parts. One, do they know the sacrifices that their parents made?
That requires conversations with those people.
Yeah, some of us are lucky enough to, go to Africa, or been there, born there, and then came here, so you understand what's there and why your parents even came here in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us were around in the early stages when our parents or aunts and uncles came, and we went and saw their whole process of like becoming a citizen here and what they went through and what the trials that was and how much that cost. Some of us witnessed that, but some of us didn't. So all we know is that we was born and raised in the U.S. and so they don't even know that there's something to be grateful for. We just look at it as we just hear like everyone else. To appreciative is like, again, I think the same thing there. If you know, you would have to know about it first. But like, I think a good amount of us are appreciative. I think that's just in our character being African. A lot of us are appreciative of what our parents do, regardless if we're very well aware of the depth of like what they sacrificed to even get here. So I think that's good. The last part, do we carry on and do our part in that effort of what they've done? I think the first step for us is making something of yourself to even be able in a position to take care of yourself before you can even contribute anything to someone else's life. A lot of our parents were sending money back for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, multiple people to like help feed them. They had to get jobs and like be able to support themselves first. So I think a lot of us are doing that. But are we contributing back our generation to Africa or Guinea? Not yet. I don't think so.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with what he said. And I feel like first you gotta know like the background, like the story of like what they've been through, like what they had done in the past, just so you can get here. Like, so majority of us, they don't really have that conversation with the kids. So some of them don't really know what's going on. Like back at home, they don't know what was going on. Some of them didn't live there, so they don't really know the struggle out there too. So for those that do understand, I think they really are appreciative of what's going on. Like majority of us, if you did time back then, you really know what's going on. Like there's a lot of stuff that you would do differently when you here. Even though like it's like you can step out of line, like you can check yourself sometimes. Like for example, like it's funny because all the time, right? Like people be like, "Oh, you eat a lot, right?" But to me, I'm like, yo, I just can't like waste food. You know what I'm saying? Like I was taught to like just like finish my plate. Like don't waste the food. Like not a lot of people do that. Some people just throw it out easily. Like for me, even if I'm full, I feel like I have to finish my plate. Right? It's just part of being grateful of what I have. Like I feel like I can't throw it out because I'm like, yo, I've been back home. And then back there, like, this food, like, I'm about to throw out. There's people there that's really want to eat this. You know what I'm saying? That's all being grateful and just knowing the struggle back home and stuff. So, yeah, to the question, I think, majority of us do know what's going on, and we are appreciative.
So,
yeah.
And the other thing, so you guys brought up a really, really great point, which is, do you even know what your parents, what your siblings, what your aunts and uncles have done and have sacrificed in order for you to be here today?
Right.
And do you feel like the responsibility of that conversation lies on the parent or the child? And I'll give you guys an example. So I'm very much so like, with my parents and stuff like that. I would always go to them and tell them, and whenever we have different discussions and conversations, tell me your story. I'd be talking to my mom. I'm like, tell me your story. And in the beginning, when I first started doing that, it's interesting because it was foreign to them. What do you mean, tell you my story? Like, none of my other siblings have asked these questions. Like, if anything, they'll ask specific questions, but like, tell you my story. What do you mean? So, and, they might say like, oh, I'm from this, kind of give a general overview, but as you know, I'm very detailed. So I'm like, no. Let's get back. let's rewind. Okay. Bebe Fantakaba, like when you were born, who did you grow up with? Where did you live from age 1 to 5? Okay, from 5. And then when sometimes she'll get tired, she'll be like, okay, we're going to pick this back up next time.
Yeah.
And by continuing to do that, like even my dad, he said that like it allowed them to even reflect back on their life and life decisions and things they've been through that they haven't thought about for decades, right? So, because these are people that are 60, 70. So like, and to think about even just my dad's story, right? Crossing this, determining whether like, okay, I'm going to leave what I know, leave my family because of a specific reason that's important to me, and I'm not going to turn back, you know, going and getting on the bus, right? The bus getting into an accident, falling into the river, losing all his clothes. Some people returning back to the
Some
city.
people didn't make it, right?
Some people were given actually the option, you know, do you want to go back to Kankan or do you want to move forward, right? He had lost like all of his most of his belongings, right? Lost one shoe in the river and was like, no, I'm going to continue to go forward to Mali, to Bamako.
Yeah.
So that's just like an example of just my father. And to think about like being at the age that we're at now or even younger, and to think, all right, at the time, there's no even like regular calling call, right? People were doing like sending cassettes or doing like, what is it? Letters and like other types of like method of communication. It was something like that. And so you don't know when you're gonna come back, right? And then obviously because of political issues, if you're leaving the country, you're not coming back, right?
You're not allowed to come back.
You're not allowed to come back. If you come back, you can risk your family, life, imprisonment. Like, so you literally had to make a decision when I leave, and if I'm leaving, that's it until whenever this person gets out of presidency or, you know, dictatorship or whatever.
Or passes away.
Yeah. And that literally was it. Like, as soon as the president, the first president passed away, 2 weeks later was the first time he went back to Guinea. Yeah. Like, his father passed away.
There's a whole book on it.
There's a whole book on it. He wrote his autobiography. Shout out to him. But, to even think about the bravery and the fear there, right? Like, his father passed away. He didn't get to go because it's like, I can't go. And so all of us have been in contact with someone here in the United States that left around that time, right? Or even left later to just go to a completely different continent. Yeah. So I feel like even having that conversation, do you feel like the burden is on the child or on the youth or on the adult, especially knowing that culturally we don't really like talk about certain things?
I think it's both. I'm gonna lay the hammer down because the thing is like we don't have a good line of communication when it comes to like between parents and like, you know, children or their kids or their child or whatever. And a lot of times it's like, you know, a lot of time we get angry all the time. We're like, yo, why you guys are like, because certain people don't understand the sacrifice, right? Not saying that they don't care. There's some people that care, right? Because showing that you care about what your parents did is not just, you know, like, just living and just being around, just say hi. No, you have to try to do better than your parents. Mm-hmm. That's a way of showing that the opportunity you gave me, I took advantage of it, not just to sit around and just do nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's like, sometimes you hear parents saying, you know what I did to, you know, get in this position, this and that. You're just yelling it out, but you're not making them understand, right? Mm-hmm. And that comes through communication. You have to sit your kid down and let them know, yo, this what I did, this what I did. I'm not saying this to put pressure on you. I'm just saying this in life. You go through obstacles, right? My obstacles, my route, my path was maybe harder than yours, but I put myself in a position where your position is a lot better than mine. I want you to excel, and you take that, and then you use it for your kids and your kids. That's how we grow. Mm-hmm. But if the line of communication is not good, how is the kids gonna understand what the parent is like saying when it comes to sacrifice? How is the kids gonna understand the parents of anything when sometimes you're using it and throwing it against them and saying, "Oh, I did this, I did that." You're gonna push the kid away, and the kid's gonna be like, "Well, my parents don't understand me, they don't like me." So there's always that gap right there, right? So there's a gap between the parents and the children's, right, or the child. And I always talk about this because we go through something like that. Sometimes we be like, yo, we feel like our parents don't understand us. But if you ask us, we understand them. They just don't understand us. But if we really sit down and have a conversation, they will say something. You be like, oh, I didn't think about it like that. Vice versa, right? So growth, I have to come on both sides. The burden is on the issue lies within both, but it start with the parents because I didn't put myself here. You guys did. So you guys have to teach me because everything I'm learning, principle, morals, culture, respect, love, and all of that. I learned that from our parents. We all learned that from our parents. And in our culture, we know we can't communicate with our parents. There's certain things you can't say. You can't even express yourself, right? It's a lot of, and I say that because to be really honest, it's a lot of African kids that have a lot of potential to do a lot of great things, but they can't do it, right? They can't even they're not able to express themselves or tell it, like, they don't even able to like tap into their full potential in terms of like talent. Because the parents don't even allow them to try certain things. No, you don't do that. No, we're not doing that. No, until you're doing that, until you keeping these kids captive mentally, right? They're not going to be able to evolve. And if the kids don't evolve, if the youth don't evolve, how the hell our country is going to evolve? And I always say that parents have to do better. And at the same time, can you blame them? No, because
culture.
Exactly. So culturally, they stay firm on that. That's embedded in their head. After a certain age, the way somebody been taught and raised, they're stuck in their ways. So that's why the future, they also say the future is the kids. It's the youth. Because whatever you teach them, they're going to take that and elevate. So I always say that. So the parents sometimes look at them like, yo, they just don't understand, right? So when we have kids, it's certain things we're not going to understand. But to change that, we have to look at this situation like, okay, my parents didn't do this, didn't do that, didn't do that. Well, let me change that to make sure that the things I don't understand, if I show them love, if I open up to them, like the things that I don't understand, that love and me being open can carry over to them. So at least if we don't have a full understanding, we can have a common ground where we can come to an understanding to a certain extent. So that's why it's on both sides of the spectrum. It's the parents first and then the kids, because outside they're completely influenced by everybody else, and then when they come home, the parents think that they're the leader, but they're not. It's the outside that's raising the kids now. That's how it is.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the responsibility lies with the parents. It comes with a time, of course, you have to take it upon yourself to go further with it, but I definitely believe it's a responsibility of the parents. Just because I've seen it enough where if there's no parents that really impose that and like have those conversations, as a human, you don't know what you don't know. You can't ask questions about something you're not even aware of or thinking
That's
about,
true.
So it's on the parent to have those conversations, talk about those things. And, it does get to a point where it's like, okay, you're well aware now of, even if you don't know all of it, there's enough of it that you're, understanding of where you can take this step. Yeah, it does come to a point, though, where, it's on the child to actually be interested and be more engaged in it, to, take those steps, take it further. So.
I feel like it is the parents' fault, too, like the parents. But at the same time, we as kids, right, there's a lot of stuff that like we're not interested in, first off. But again, we're willing to learn, right? Or listen. So if the parents really think that they don't know how to explain to them, or even sometimes when they do like tell you their background, like their story and stuff, you might be bored. You're like, bro, he just like right now he just chatting. Like,
yeah.
He's just trying to like make a point like he did all this, like he don't know what I'm going through, right?
Yep.
But as a parent, you gotta understand, bro. Kids gonna be kids, right?
Yeah.
We all have like times when we just gonna be there, just like not listening to what's going on at the moment. But again, it's the different approach to it, right? If you try this approach and then it's not, they're not processing, it's not working. Try something else as a parent, because you want your kid to be better, right? So like a lot of parents do give up sometimes. They're like, all right, this I already tried, I'm just give up. And another thing is like the pride, right? Our African parents are very prideful, right? There's a lot of things that like you said out there, they're stuck in their ways. It's like, bro, this is how I grew up. I had to learn it this way. So I'm gonna try to do it that way. If it don't work, then that's that. It's like I already tried.
Yeah.
But again, it's like if you want your kid to do better, or you want them to make them understand what you came from, try to find ways, and then everything don't have to be like how like controlling or like try to belittle them. Like you don't have to do that. Like parents always want to raise their voice at you, yell at them. Not every kid is process things the same. So certain kids, if you want to tell them something or talk to them, as soon as you start yelling, like they're out of there.
Yeah.
Like they're here right now. They're looking at you. I'm listening to you, but
Yeah.
I'm not
here.
I'm not here right now.
I'm not
You feel me?
here.
I'm thinking about other things I'm about to do. Like, yo,
Yeah.
just finish saying what you gotta say so I can be out of here. Like, you gotta, like, it's different ways to approach things. Like, I feel like, yeah, that's something that the parents just need to work on.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. I do think that, I personally think that the responsibility lies with both as well. And I think that also in terms of the child, right, there's also different ages and different stages, because when I was asking these questions of tell me about your life, I wasn't like 12, right? I wasn't, whenever I would be, it's like, oh, we got to go to this wedding. We got to go to this Guinean association meeting. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to go. I want to hang out with my friends. You know what I'm saying? So like, even in terms of interest to want to know certain things didn't come until like 20s. Way later, when thinking through like self-discovery and just reflecting on myself, reflecting on my own life, and then wanting to build and yearning to build an adult type of relationship with my parents, So I think number one, age kind of definitely plays a role in the sense of like when you can really have that like that relationship where it's not okay, just authoritative, like do this, and it becomes more of a point where you're an adult. And so now we need to understand and learn each other and learn who we are as adults. And then also and then you look at your parents from a different light, you realize growing up, they may have been Superman, Superwoman who had the answers 100% of the time. And then as an adult, you look and you're like, wow, you've done a lot of things or had to do a lot of things even at my age. And I'm like struggling to do regular chores. You know what I'm saying?
I got something to add to that, right? So this might be controversial, right? So so do you guys think with our culture, right? Do you guys think like our culture in totality, do you think it's more beneficial to us or is it more of a detriment to us? That's one. And two, do you think our culture is do you think that our culture help us and mold us to be respectful in the community and society, but on the other hand, it hinder us to become successful?
Yeah, I believe aspects of it. I think it goes both ways. There's parts of it that hinders us. There's parts of it that does better us. Enabling us to become better people in the first place, even before you talk about success or anything. There's parts of it that makes us human, but there's parts of it that going beyond that, and I think a lot of that goes to like there's huge differences now. This living in a capitalistic society is different. Because you're not focused on those being a human anymore, and we all agree to this point. Even recently, it was said in a certain interview, if you want to get further, you have to step on people.
For sure.
We don't come from that type of society.
We don't.
And we've learned that's what it takes, and our generation is taking up to that. Our parents' first thing wasn't really doing that, stepping on people.
It was like survival.
It was survival. So it was like, you get a job, take care of your family, whatever.
We're
going past that. We're not about to go work menial jobs or nothing. So we willing to step
striving for that.
People.
Right.
We have no problem with that. And that's the difference. And that's not
the multicultural aspect of us.
So, do you have something to say? Add on to that?
So I think I agree with Gabinet. I think though I think it's a net positive, because I think that, although there may be things in our culture that hold us back, and just is kind of like a weight to us. However, being here and being multicultural, we're able to, like you said, be a hybrid of the two. We take the good, we leave the bad behind. And that's why we may ruffle feathers, and it may be a little bit, there's a disconnect between us and those who don't have that multicultural aspect. So whether it be elders or certain people that may not have been here and understand, have shifted that way as well. So, but overall, I think it's a net positive, because the positive aspect of the culture, I think it keeps us grounded in who we are, and in certain situations, even 20 years from now, we'll continue to do things and behave a certain way because of who we are, and it's ingrained in us. Keeps us grounded.
Well, for me, I'm gonna take a different route here, right? Because, like, over and over again, like, we're talking about the same thing. Like, we love our culture, we love our people, and all of that, right? And it's not to point hands. I'm talking about it's on us. It's on all of us. We have to do better as a society. And I'm not saying we're horrible people. We're not terrible people. Like, with our culture, yes, it do bring respect, right? It do bring some type of honor, right? And it has a lot of like pros, right? But I feel like the cons, like, there's a lot of pros and there's not much cons, but the cons is so huge that it overpower the pros, if that makes sense. Now I'm gonna give you a few scenario or a few examples. So, like, you see a African, like, people agree to this, like, when they see it's like they respect elders, when they see they pull their pants up, they do all of that, right? They do all the great things, right? But behind closed door, they do some of the most horrible things to people. They will either talk behind your back, if they can go behind you and steal money, they will do it. If they can
use you,
exactly. If they can f you out of some money, they will do it, and they will use you. And then we have all of these things that comes with it. The respect is that's all cute. You can say hi to me every day, at the same time stealing from me. Do you really respect me? So we use that. We use culture to do all of these bad things. We hide behind culture, respect, and morals, and so we have all of these morals and respect. But behind it, we're doing some of the most terrible things to each other. That's one. And then two, the reason why I say, like, is that more detrimental, right? Because how long we're going to be in the same position, how long we're going to be stuck in the same position, right? Nobody want to be stagnant. Everybody's moving along. The little thing we get, they're like, oh, we're doing better. No, we're not doing better. In general, the world is evolving, so you might get a little crumb that's not doing better, right? Imagine if the world is not doing better, what are you getting? The worst. So if it's doing better, you get the crumbs. If it's doing bad, you get nothing, right? So I say that because the cons, right? Like, they teach us not to be selfish. They teach us to be selfless, right? But at the same time, within that selfless, they find a ways to be selfish, right? And then if you do got it, everybody want to come to you, right? Give me this, give me that, give me that, give it. And if you don't do it for them, you're horrible. And if you do it for them, right, it's still not enough, right? So we got to come in a point in time that we have to, like, take our culture, enhance it a little bit, teach people how to get it, how to grind, how to be a little selfish and not care what people think. Because we have a great culture, we have a great community. That's great, right? So that's like saying, like, okay, I have this, one house here, right? And then everybody live in this one house, right? But it's growing. But we don't want to leave this one house to get a bigger house, so everybody can be more comfortable. Because when a house is small and it's packed up, the tension grow, it intensify, right? So I feel like that's how we are. We are in this like chamber that's small, and we're growing, and it's always the problem getting intensified. So the problem that we already had is getting bigger and bigger. How about we go and get a bigger house where everybody can be satisfied? So a lot of time culture is great, right? Our culture is great, but the con is so big that it holds us back. It's terrible. That is terrible, bro. So, like, a lot of time, that's why I try to try to tell people. At the end of the day, people like, they know what's going on, but they don't have the words to articulate to say what they really want to say. They don't know the words. They don't have the words to say it. This is what it is. You really have to analyze it.
Yeah. I like one thing that you said that's stand out to me is, like, when you said that everybody care about, like, well, you said something about caring about what other people think, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing that's a big problem in our culture, right?
And
like,
the ego,
and then, like, majority, well, not all parents, but majority of them really care about their names. Like, it's the name for them. Like,
facts.
They will do everything, like, selfless, right? Doing everything, help everybody else out, but they even forget about what they got going on in their own personal life, right?
That's true.
So it's like, you're doing all this, they're taking from you. Everybody's taking, when you can't even help yourself out, right? And then, like, you're doing all this just for your name, so you can have that name of, oh, he's a great man, But again, it goes back to what you said again. People will present themselves, have this mask on, where they come in and present themselves like, oh, we're respecting all this, right? So they can get something out of you, right? Once they benefit off you, they're going to go behind you and say, oh, all this stuff, bad stuff that they're saying. You don't know what they're saying behind your back, right? As soon as they get what they got from you, you're good. But once that stop, all that good name that you was looking for, you going through it. One, they're not gonna help you out.
Yeah.
Two, you're gonna have a bad name because now it's like something that you stop. They can't benefit off you. So it's like it's just gonna bring a bad name to you now. They're just gonna have something to talk about to you now. It's like, oh, him, something happened.
Yeah.
It's just bad. Yeah, that's something.
And do you lived in Guinea for a year, right? Yeah. So I also want to hear about like your thoughts on not only the diaspora people, but then also the next generation that's also there, and behaviors and relationships that you've seen between parent and, you know, child, and has it improved in terms of communication, in terms of, or even not a child, but like their adult child, right? Has that improved relationships, or is it still very much so like, you know, strict and one-sided?
You know, with the situation in Guinea, I would say younger generation mindset is changing.
Okay.
They're looking at things, you know, a little bit more different. But one of our biggest hindrances in my opinion is that society learns from each other, right? A lot of the times we rate America on how good or bad it is because we get to peer into other societies and see how they do. Like we compare ourselves a lot to like Japan or China because how they treat their country, their infrastructure, what they do for their citizens. And a lot of the times, us as French-speaking countries, we don't get that opportunity entirely as English-speaking countries because we're limited to seeing what countries like France is doing. When we speak French, when we get on the internet and the experiences and the stuff that people understand, the average citizen is what they get from France. Versus countries like Ghana and Nigeria being English-speaking, they get to see some of these views and understand like what we're seeing here in the U.S. and U.K. and understand those things and incorporate those mindsets and understand that in these bigger Western countries that this is the mindset that moves people forward. This is how they look at things. And I feel like we don't get that, but there's a small amount of people like in Guinea that get to, you know, see those and experience those type of things. So, you know, slowly, it's slowly happening there, but not entirely. But I do think things are getting better in the diaspora because when you look at our parents, they have their strict, you know, how stuck they are to their culture and like how prideful they are. And when you look at what they were doing, a lot of them came here and just probably working pretty regular jobs and whatnot. One generation later, we have a lot of people doing a lot of different stuff now. And yeah, we want, you know, things to change much more. And like there's a lot we want to happen for our country. Right here we have people doing a lot of different things in just one generation. Just between us here alone. Just what we do in media, accounting, tech, you know, all that stuff. None of our parents were accountants or working in tech or anything like that. And a lot of us understand that our parents and like the old ways of thinking, it's a hindrance on us. But we haven't got far enough along where a lot of us don't have kids yet or haven't raised them to a point in life where their characters show and like can reflect like how we've changed from our parents. So we're kind of in that transition period. So I say it's hard to see that yet. We ourselves, we can show it. Like I say, there's two parts. Being able to do for yourself first is the first part. And then what you contribute back is the second part. We haven't got far enough along yet to show our contributions back. We don't even have kids yet to show and say like, you know.
Yeah.
Got a point.
Yeah. And I actually want to touch on the aspect of contribution back to the continent, right? And contribution back to the country. Thinking about the state in which Guinea is now, right? Do you guys believe that when we first gained independence, and I don't know what the number is, but like a ridiculous number of Guineans left, either ran away, 58
right? After the independence?
Yes.
Okay.
Under Sékou yeah. It's a regime. So either left voluntarily or involuntarily, right? Whether it's because they felt like, you know, there was a lot of a lot of like fear, I think, in that government, right? A lot of threats from the outside influences. And so a lot of people that left felt that, their education or their level or of intellect or whatever the case may be a threat to the government, based on whatever their point of view was, right? And so some were exiled or some left voluntarily. Do you feel like, and I actually see if you can look it up, what the number is of like, if we can find like the number during that period of his regime, how many Guineans fled the country? All of those people that left the country and went to Asian countries, South American countries, North American countries, Europe, like all throughout the world, right? Then worked in all these in all these areas, or even just in other countries on the continent, right? And contributed to the GDP or the evolution of that company, right? So it's almost like depriving Guinea of all of these resources and allocating it to all of these other places, whereas these resources could have then significantly impacted the growth of the country had all of this remained, right? Because to your point, even just our generation, there are different Guineans that are doing different things. There's medicine, engineering, etc. But you're contributing to this country. For example, if you're living here, you're contributing to your findings, and your work is contributing to the healthcare system here, or whatever, to the technology industry here. So, and then now coming into us, thinking about, or even our parents that have gone back and contributed back to the continent, do you feel like there would have, the state of the country today would have been significantly different had whatever number of individuals not fled at the time and contributed to that country? But also keeping in mind that when they left to go into these other places, they were able to tap into the resources in these other places that potentially may not have been in Guinea anyways to begin with, right? Yeah. So,
yeah, I mean, I have to do, because I can't find the numbers right now. I don't know if they even got it. But yeah, I mean, like under Sékou Touré, like people felt like he was a dictator, and some people were. And Sékou Touré also was, he was very, like, he was cautious, and he was conscious about any outsider going out and coming back to, obviously to kind of like overthrow him, because he told the Europeans, like, no, we want our independence. We'd rather be poor, than be slaves. So, and that's why nobody was allowed to leave, because he felt like if anybody was not contributing to the country, that you're not one of us. And if you do live, when you leave the country, when you come back, you're going to jail, or you probably execute you, because he felt like whatever you're bringing in, it could be a virus to the country, or maybe you try to overthrow me and put us right back to slavery. So there's that concept, right? So do you guys feel? Another question: do you guys feel like the state, of our culture right now, or just our community, do you guys think that going forward, like the next 20-30 years, you guys think that we're like the country's gonna be in a better position based on what we're doing right now? People that's outside of the country, do you feel like those people eventually will end up coming back, or their kids will end up coming back to try to help and build the country up 20 years from now?
Yeah, I think it will happen, because I look at, like, Nigeria is a very good example. For a while, Nigeria is a huge country, but they were in a very bad state. There's a lot of Nigerians that go overseas, and they're in a lot of different countries, So for a while, they weren't going back. I mean, their parents were focused like our parents were, to just have a home when they go back. They're building stuff. But as like the next generation of Nigerians, they started finding more success, and they took more interest in their home and stuff. They took it a lot further. Like, you see people going back and like doing a lot more, not than just building homes with schools and building the country. Because as you get older, it's a phase you go through. When you're young, you're ridiculed so much for African culture. Not ashamed of it, but it's like you try to like understand the culture you are. But as time goes, start to value your own culture so damn much. And I watched it happen myself. I even watched it with my own little brothers. To the point, like, I don't know if you remember, they was outside and all this other wild stuff. But to the point, I started seeing them, like, in our city, African culture became mad popular. They had all the kids at the mosque and, like, doing all this stuff. And it became huge. It's this whole wave that you go through. And Nigeria is, I think they're ahead as far as, like, since they've been actually migrating out and doing a lot of this stuff, and they have a lot more people out in the country. So, like I said, and they have the advantages too. But with us, I think it just takes time as, like, we get further onto and are more immersed in different countries and, like, in our fields, and as we go back. Because it doesn't take everybody. I mean, everybody from diaspora isn't going to go back and contribute something and build something or whatever. It won't be everybody, And a lot of, there's, like, this rule, I forget exactly what it's called, 80% of, like, your outcome comes from, like, 20% of your input, you know what I mean? So there's a good amount of us where, if that rule applies, there's 20% of us out here in the diaspora that's going to go back and make a big enough impact, about 80% of the impact down there. That's happened. You can't say everybody. A lot of efforts are done by a small group amount of people. So.
And what about the question about the folks that left?
I think that was necessary because, if we stayed there, it would have been, great. But one, what education would we be getting to contribute in the first place? If we all stayed there and remained loyal and we're just doing taxi drivers and working stores, we're there.
You talk about during, like, the Secretary time?
Yeah. So my question was, all of those people that left, and I think I just saw, I said like 1.5 million, but I guess we'll need to see, like, what the population was at that time so we understand fully what the percentage of the population left. But nevertheless, like, my question was, all of those that fled, right, and they ended up being in these countries, right, like the generation right before us, and contributing to Asian, European, North American, South American countries, etc. Had they not left, would they have made a huge impact to the country? And what that impact would have been like?
The money alone that 1.5 or whatever million sends back to Africa, I believe, is a bigger impact than those people could have did if they stayed. Because I think it's called remittance or whatever. A year is tracked for what people send back to their countries. In Guinea alone, what's sent back to the country makes a huge difference in people's lives. Sending people to school, health, how they're living. And, as you look at it, like China sends hundreds of thousands. It's not they're running away or anything. Hundreds of thousands, really, of their kids to
They're also overpopulated, too.
They are, but they don't send them out for the overpopulation.
No, that's not.
They purposely send their kids to the U.S. to colleges every year, hundreds of thousands. The school I went to, a mad amount of Asians. And some of them work here or whatever, and when they learn and certain things,
they go back.
They know that maybe 100%, not even 80 probably might not go back. But the small groups that do, what they're gaining out of that, it's a lot. What they're bringing back. It's not that there's not good education there. We're living in an age of globalization. So what you do in your little circle, if you just focus on that and not what's happening in the world, you're not really moving with, like, the times.
They also probably create business, even though they probably living here, they probably got business back home there. They're still contributing to the country.
Do. And a lot of them, like, I knew, like, because I'm not gonna lie, some of those kids used to come in like 17, 18 years old, like, their first car, they had like Lamborghinis on campus.
Yeah, true.
They're rich, so their families had businesses and whatnot. But the fact that they're sending them here to the U.S. to gain something, is clearly something here in the Western world to be gained, to be taken back to your home.
For sure.
Back to the question, I just want to add something quick. So for back home, right, for Guinea, I feel like 20 years from now, it will, like, evolve. Like, it will be better and stuff, because like, now our generation, right, like, we are a little different from the older generation, because the older generation focus on, like, all the money that they was sending back home, it was technically just to build a house for themselves, right? It's not really doing much for, like, the whole country, or, like, help the do better for us in general. You know what I'm saying? So it's like our generation now, we focus on, like, ways to make money, right? Like, to create businesses back home. So And in a way, that will help out because it's like it's going to give people jobs back there at home because a lot of people don't have jobs. Even though we was having a conversation not so long ago, like, you rather just like create jobs, give them jobs instead of just handing out money to them.
Yeah.
So it's like
teaching them how to fish.
So, exactly. So the old generation, they had that mindset of just like handing out money. Like, just giving.
I'll carry you on my back.
But they're stuck in their own ways. Like if you like the new generation had the mindset of like, yo, I understand, like I gotta work for this money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can't just give it to you and then like I'm not gonna get that money back.
Yep.
Second, if I do get the money back, it's not gonna be enough. It's not growing. The money is just like the same amount I'm getting back.
Yep.
So it's like there's no worth to it for real. So it's like it's gonna grow. So I feel like all the business that we created,
I beg to differ. I completely disagree. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Like, you know, I know we're just having a conversation. Yeah. I don't care about none of that.
In 20 years?
In 20 years, right?
You feel like it's gonna be the same?
On the trajectory that we're on right now, I don't think we're gonna evolve. And plus, on top of that, it's like our parents just weren't handing out money, right? It's like they would tell you to go get a job, right? Go get a job. It's like, okay, you're giving them a worker mentality, not a boss, not a leader. And like, not everybody gonna be a boss or a leader, but at least if you pushing that agenda towards more kids, you get more leaders and you get more bosses, not more workers. And right, they don't have that understanding, right? That's fine. But on top of that, this is my issue, and we know that we're a francophone country, not a anglophone, right? So like, I'm gonna say, like, we have a mentality of like, I think France, if I'm not sure, it's like maybe a communist country or socialist or whatever. I'm not sure, but and maybe a little bit of capitalism, right? But in America here, it's a capitalist country, right? So they show you they tell you go get money. Anybody can come in and get money. So like, and that's the thing I would say. A lot of time, me and Mo had this conversation. I'm like, do you think, like, I used to say our culture, right? Our culture is great. Don't get it wrong. It's beautiful. The people and all of that, the love is good. But if we want to evolve as a country, as a nation, we got to do better. We kind of have to adapt to the mentality of the Americans in terms of like when it comes to like getting money, creating business, the capitalist mindset. We have to learn how to get money and build, because once you do that, like you was talking about feeling, you can't just help somebody when you're messed up yourself. So if you put yourself in that position, then instead of just giving charity, you create more jobs. Then you create more opportunity. That somebody might be, oh my God, I want to be like him. And he do that, create another job. So like right now, the trajectory we're on right now, we feel like we're doing better than our parents. Are we really? Is it just smoke and mirror? Because a lot of time we didn't have this conversation, right? A lot of time people send money back on, what are they doing? They're building their own houses, home. How is that contributing to the community or the country? Right? And not only that, it's like a lot of us, even those hours, they leave it over there. They don't really want to go back over there, right? So and at the same time, like, most of us don't really think about plans or trying to find ways to help the country even evolve. Right. Because, like, I'm not saying nobody does it. There's people that do it. I'm just saying the majority don't. Before people are like, oh, you don't not do this, I do that. I'm not talking about you. We're not talking about the outlier. We're talking about the majority, right? In general. And we're sitting there. We're not saying that, we're like, we're doing anything exceptional. We're just saying together we need to come together and do something and come together and create something. That's the whole point of this podcast, to be real. So even us, like, we haven't really contributed nothing back home. Sending some clothes, your old shoes or anything like that. Like, people about, oh, I do that. We all do that. Everybody doesn't send money back home. Everybody doesn't send money to this charity, to this, to this. But what I'm saying, when it comes to charity, you can't just give, right? You can't just give, because if you give, they're gonna rely on you giving. How about you create? I was just saying that. Anybody, they don't make much, right? We spend thousands of dollars on Dior shoes and all of that. You know how many people that can like live off of that? If you make them work, they're gonna go work for it. They want money. If you make them work, they're gonna go work for it. If you build something, right, that you don't really benefit from, right, but you're doing it to encourage other people to do it. 3, 4, 5, let's say 10 people that created a business. They don't really benefit from it, but they also don't hurt them, because that money was gonna go to a Louis Vuitton or whatever. And then more people start doing it. Next thing you know, we got a big factory. Second, 3, 4, 5, everybody comes to start working. And then what did that do? That build up the GDP, right?
Yeah, I guess then, all right. And all of that is amazing, right? And I think in a perfect world, we would go back, people would do that, and everything will be great, and we'll have our trajectory will go like this. However, I do feel like there have been people that have gone back and attempted to do all of what you're talking about.
That's true.
And there's some that have done it and continue to fight through the challenges. And there are others that have done it, but due to the challenges, whether it's bribery, whether it's theft, whether it's like just dishonesty. Fraudulent dishonesty, like got exhausted and just said, you know what?
Forget it.
Maybe my resources can be better elsewhere.
Yeah.
So
that's true too.
Like, I think it's almost like the chicken and the egg, right? Like, if you were to step in, right, and you had to do a complete reform, where do you even begin, right? Because we're talking about you need to go and do a factory, right? How are you going to do a factory if your electricity isn't 100% steady because for whatever reason someone is stealing or not giving you money or whatever when you're trying to make your generator run the entire times? There's an issue if it breaks down. You live here, you got to get somebody to go and fix the generator, and then they're going to pocket some of the money and be like, okay, let me get you a used one. The used one then breaks the next day. You get what I'm saying? And so, like, without you having to literally leave everything here to go and sit down there yourself, how do you, or maybe that's what's required, right? So just the chicken and the egg, like
I agree with that.
Infrastructure, like water, electricity, roads, being able to have, you know, just something that's sustainable, right?
Yeah.
I think
and troop intimidation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The number one thing for us in every other country is education.
Yeah.
You know,
lack of knowledge.
You do certain things when you're not well aware. You don't have the education to it. You might know what you're doing, but you don't know the full impact of what you're doing. You know, when they do certain things, like when our politicians do certain stupid things, in their head it's like, I just want to eat this for, you know, take care of my family, whatever. But they don't really fully understand the full extent of how stupid and how detrimental what they're doing. You know, and these are people you're talking about that, like I mentioned a while ago. There's some of us who see ourselves in a position, but we always tell ourselves or know that one day I won't be here. Things will get better.
Yeah.
The most dangerous thing is someone who believes that this is where I'm doomed to be for the rest of my life. So once you're in that position, it's like someone who's in prison for life. That's the worst person you want to bump into in prison. I'm here for life. So if you bother me, I'm going to take you with me. You know what I mean?
That's a fact.
So imagine someone who's poor who believes I'm going to be here forever.
That's crazy,
So whatever I can eat off you, I'm going to do it. When I get to God's house, whatever happens there, we'll deal with it there.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a fact.
That's a mindset
crazy.
that you're competing with. And that's why as mad as I got, I still work now to go back and try to do more because I realize that's the mindset you're dealing with. I've never had that mindset.
But is that survival mode?
It is.
It's beyond survival.
Because think about it, right? Is it beyond a mindset though? Like, for example, is it, this is what I need to do to feed my family? Because even when we think about like the levels of poverty, like in the country, right? Most people, and again, we, next time on the episode, we'll pull up some stats, but I think that most people are poor. And like, then you have the middle class. I think then, the middle class, they're doing well and things like that. And then you have like a very small population.
It's the little class. There's no middle class. It's the little class. The little that those people get, it's the little class.
And so when you're stuck in survival mode of like, my family needs to eat.
Yeah.
Then how do you even have the privilege of, I need to change my mindset for the betterment of the country. And because I need to eat today.
The problem is they're not the focus. Like you mentioned, when you're changing the world, you don't go for the older folks. The changes start with the young people.
Facts.
Certain things we have to accept. That's why when you say 20 years, it's like time frame wise, we can all guess. I can say one thing for sure. It won't be like this forever. It's not. It's going to come out of them. Our parents, those older folks, they're not going to change.
They're not.
If they live to see Unveiled and all this other stuff going on, and like that's not gonna change. The younger generation is what's gonna change. It's almost impossible for us to do just like our parents. We just can't. They didn't grow up with internet. They didn't grow up with seeing how other countries operate. They didn't grow up with as much information as a lot of us have. Some of us have consumed so much information by the time we're like 20 years old. Our parents are probably never consumed in their entire lives.
That's true.
So it's inevitable that the mindset changes. And if we focus on the older folks, we won't get anywhere. Because all the leaders right now, we argue, Alpha Conde. Let's be honest, they're all the same in the same sense at the end of the day. Because you put any of them in place, there's going to be variances. Like you can argue, well, this might not have this. But in the end, it's not going to get us to where we are. So you can say it's the same. It won't get us the result that we're all looking for. And us, as young people, is like, you're not going there to go run anything for real right now. So it takes
you have to wait.
Them and their mindset, as sad as I say, to just leave and not be here anymore for a whole new mindset to come in. You know?
Would you consider the current mindset a whole new mindset or a hybrid because
From
he's
us?
older?
Oh,
the current
of that? No, he's the same thing.
So at what generation is it? You're saying
So
our generation?
There's our
So
parents,
it's almost like
there's our parents' generation. Our parents' generation, they're, with the Alpha Condes or whatever, and they're the ones, if you're speaking just for, they're the ones here who basically came here. They're not in that mode of like, I'm sentenced to a life of poverty or whatever, but they sacrifice education to be able to provide. Our generation is the generation that was able to get education. We don't have any extra privilege, but we have education. We're able to do things. But we have the opportunity. Our kids can be the first privileged generation. We had to go to a terrible school to get a good education and level up and didn't have any privileges. We just had an opportunity. So it's a privilege compared to coming where we came from. But in the context of America, it's not privilege. Y'all kids, for example, can grow up way better off than any of us have and be privileged and not even know what it means to be in the hood.
That's true.
We have the opportunity. They can go to the best schools around here. They can pay to do things that we didn't get to go to. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like the levels of our generation right now. So all three of those are different. So your Dumbias or whatever, I put them in the same generation because they have that same mind frame. Our generation is going to push change in mindset, but our impact, I don't think, will be that huge. But by the time our kids are like 18, 19, 20, the mindset of things are going to be totally different.
I got something to add on to that, right? I agree with what he's saying, right? But there's also another issue behind that, right? So, yes, there's an opportunity for those kids to, like, even live a better life, even, like, more education or whatever. But my whole point is how those kids are going to be able to impact back home, right? Because, we can teach them the right thing, all right? And then in order to do anything back home, you got to have the power. So, and people back home, right, they want to be here. And then they don't want nobody from here going over there to tell them what to do. Because they looking at you privileged. Don't come here. You don't know this. Nobody, you're not about to come into my house and tell me you're not doing that. You didn't see the struggle. You didn't, even though you're coming with a new mindset, a great mindset, they're going to be like, nah, man, we've been struggling. Like you said, somebody in prison forever, that life in prison, they would do anything. You over there, you worry about over there. You can come and visit. But this power, whoever is in power right now, I'm not letting this power go for you to come and for me not to benefit and on top of that, even not only the person in power, also the people are not gonna stand behind you, right? So that means the work gotta start early, meaning the kids gotta start going back more often. And not only that, when they go back, don't just let them go visit. Take them to the village, make them work, cultivate, right? Do agriculture, do things, right? So they're gonna be like,
ingrain them in the culture.
Exactly. So they're gonna be like, yo, Dad, I want to go to Guinea. I want to do that. Was fun because sometimes as kids, those little things, they be like, yo, that was fun, right? Then when they grow up, they get stuck in their mind. Yo, let me turn it into a business. But if they go more often, right? People are like, yo, we see these people do it, whatever. They create small businesses, or maybe you create a small business that they run, giving people jobs that, that put them in favor of the people. Then if they want to run for power, then
and they're not foreigners. Exactly. Because at that point, if they're, not only is it us, but then if then we have the next generation. The responsibility is 1,000% on us to make sure they have that connectivity to the continent. Otherwise, and specifically to the country. Otherwise, like, what like the privilege to be like, oh yeah, okay, so my grandparents were born here, and hey guys, I'm coming here to save y'all, and I'm gonna do that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that's the two things that I think that changes the country. One, it's a hard task, but maintaining the connection to the country, meaning the language carries over, the culture carries over, you're going back, you're keeping a connection. Two, it took me a decent while to understand too, but the idea shouldn't be that us as diaspora want to go back and take positions of power and lead them somewhere. Because it's almost disrespectful to say, y'all have no clue what y'all are doing. So us that's born in America, we about to come show y'all how to live your life properly.
Right, imagine.
The most valuable thing today, more than anything, is information. Data.
And influence.
Mm-hmm. That, I think, bringing them information, giving them information, helping them get educated, that's what empowers them. Mm-hmm. You think of in prisons, people be there doing a lot of whatever. But it'd be certain people that go in that library on their own and learn so much that they end up becoming their own lawyers and getting themselves out of the prison.
Okay.
We empower them by giving them information. Yeah, we can start businesses and health stuff, hospitals and all that. It took me a while to realize, because it does sound disrespectful. Yeah, I'm born in Michigan, but I'm about to come be Premier Minister and show you how to live. I'm like, okay, I can see why they respond to me.
Yeah.
I started looking at it like, bro, you empower them. You give them information. You give them stuff. You give them stuff to, be able to learn and do it and see how the world operates, and let them be empowered to make decisions, to make changes, to see what's going on around the rest of the world, and how does that compare to how we're living and how our country is. That's why you see books get banned from certain places and information gets banned, because it's like you can contaminate someone with something so good that they start to wake up every day like, there's no way we can live like this. I'd rather die than not see change.
What's the saying me and them always be saying this? I'm like, it's like you in a swimming pool, or maybe you can be in a whatever, you go somewhere like at a beach or whatever, and then we're all like, we're all standing up, right? The water is shallow, right? Like the area is a shallow area. The water stop right here. A toddler can literally stand up in that water, but you under the water, you're drowning, right? And then let's say we're the first one to get up, and the water's right. I'm like, why was I suffering or killing myself?
You guys could stand up.
Then we're looking over. It was like,
and everybody's still drowning.
What are you doing? The person literally that's drowning himself in that shallow area, they will literally look up and they look at you like, yo, bro, you can breathe. Like, he will take that deep breath and go back under the water. What are you doing?
Yeah.
All you have to do is stand up. Soon as somebody stand up, you see over. You be like, bro, what the hell? So that's how information is.
And few
right?
people are standing up.
Exactly.
Right? The majority are drowning. And there's some that are struggling. They're floating kind of, sometimes they get a current and then, they're drowning. Sometimes they're good. But when you stand up, few are standing up. They're standing, and you stand up on the books you read. You stand up on the podcasts you listen to. You stand up on the information you intake, just you being studious outside of school, right? Yeah. The majority of people, and I don't even think it's just Guineans. I think just even here, right? When you're done with school, learning is done. Yeah. And so they don't continue to actually learn, themselves and grow.
And this gonna be the last segment, and we can close out, right?
Oh, hold on, before you do that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is it bad for us to put that burden on that next generation, because some of them may grow up and be like, I don't want nothing to, like, I want to stay here. Like, you have putting that expectation.
You have to, bro. We don't have any room. We don't have any.
Like, it's our responsibility.
Yeah, we can no longer be like, you can't be. The world is completely soft already, bro. So you can no longer be like, I was telling you this, bro. You can no longer be like, oh, this. It is what it is. You either do it or you don't. And again, this information or this conversation is not for everybody. It's for like 5% of the people that are going to take this information, because not everybody going to be leaders. Only a few are leaders and the rest are followers.
And I'm saying in terms of like the next generation, like our kids.
We have to put that burden in order to even get 2, 3, 4 leaders. You have to do that, right? But you have to do it like you got to do it smart. You can't just, do or die. No.
Like some parents, be a doctor, be a doctor, be a doctor, be an engineer.
Yes.
So these are great conversations.
Yeah.
What is the law from this discussion?
Well, basically we got into like parents being parents, kids being kids, and the lack of communication between the two when it comes to African parents and their kids. And we also talk about culture. So we have to come up with a law.
It's important to move forward, yet understand. It's important to move forward, yet have an understanding of your past. And move forward, yet understand your past.
And your culture shouldn't limit your success.
I would say move forward, understand your past to be able to fulfill the journey.
Fulfill the journey. It's important to move forward, yet understand your past to fulfill the journey. Yeah, understand your past to fulfill your journey. Okay.
Not just your journey. I would say the journey of
the journey.
Everything that comes.
Understand the journey. That's a good one.
Yeah, I think that is a really good one.
Man, that was a great segment. We had a lot of wonderful great topics. Again, Kabine and Usman Kaba, aka Kaba the creator. I don't know what you want me to call you, Black Man Kaba, So that was a great show. And then we're gonna wrap it up. Don't forget to subscribe.
Yep. And the law.
The law. Yes.
It's important to move forward, yet understand your past to fulfill the journey.
It was a great show, man. This is the Unveiled Mindset podcast.
Make sure you guys follow us and stay tuned for the next episode.
We out.
Bye.
It's like Numi got the Uzi, man. She always speaking facts. She be dropping bombs, make all of them double back. Then the crime raises. It's something they never gonna get that, but it's cool. Let's sit back. Let's chit chat. Unveiled mindset.